Well, boys and girls, what do we see here? Well, that is my 4.6 2010 F-150 block with one of the heads finally off. Why? Well, exhaust, the studs were broken. Couldn't get in there with a drill bit no matter what to get the one right behind the shock tower right here. So took the heads off. Turns out this was a lot easier than I thought. I should have just done this from the get-go. By the time I ran around getting drill bits, buying some tools, trying to figure how to get into this one stud over here. Could have had this off, bought new gaskets, put back on, and probably would have been driving it. So lesson learned, just from now on, if you have this issue with studs in the manifold, especially on this 2010, this is a VIN code 8, which is a 3 valve, and the intake, the runners on this vehicle goes right up against the bottom of the front firewall, so you can't really lift this engine up. And you got these massive front motor mounts that are kind of, there. That, boy, it's a job to unhook those with the manifolds on. So we just pulled the manifold off first, and the bolts came out pretty easy. Now, I do have a video earlier that says in my playlist on this F-150, on this truck, and it says intake removal, and you'll see me taking off this intake and all that. Wasn't as bad as I thought. So here is the gasket. I ordered 2 gaskets online, free shipping, $30. The local parts store wanted $50 for one gasket. I said no. So we gotta wait till our gaskets get here. Yeah, I just pulled this off last night, so I gotta clean some of this out. Cylinders all look good. No wear, no top edging or anything. Bolts came right out. Now on the back of this passenger side, there's a bracket back here, a brace that you gotta take out this little 10mm bolt, then twist this whole piece off here because there's a tube that goes all the way to here, and there's a water jacket behind the water pump here. It feeds into that, so you can't get this head off unless you get that bolt off. And speaking of the head, ta-da, there it is. There's where that bolt is, that bracket, so that'll get hung up. And see, there is the side of it where the exhaust was. All these I could get out. Matter of fact, one I had to drill out, I believe was right here, and here is what it looks like. As long as you get your bit in the center, then when you step up the next size with the kit I'm going to show you, you're okay. You can get most of these out, but behind the shock tower, I could not get a bit in here. And matter of fact, it was so bad on the bottom, no room. Look what I did right there. So this is why I pulled the head off. This is the only one. This was the only one right here that I couldn't, well, this is one I damaged. So this head's still on. Fairly easy to take off. I just got to unhook the exhaust down there, bust them nuts loose, pull this off, and let me show you what the head bolts look like. And here they are. They're kind of wrapped up here. Massive long bolts. I mean, these things are probably 8 inches long. So they came out fairly easy. They weren't really torqued terribly hard, and the socket that I used to get those out were a 15. I used a 1/2-inch drive, so everything else looks good. I even left the gear on here, cam phaser gear and the bolt. Didn't have to worry about that. So now I can put my plate on here, center that bit there, and go ahead and knock these out and all that. So figured I'd just make the video, show you guys if you're into this, if you got this problem. Sometimes it's just better to take off the head. Now the reason why this wasn't too bad, because I don't have the intake plenum that goes across. Mine just comes up and goes down. And some of the older style 4.6s have, I believe, have the metal intake that you still got to take off. But still, by the time you do all that, you're saving yourself so much headache by really getting into these bits in the center here and getting them out. Now, of course, you got to take your front cover off and the timing chain components, but That's real easy. Oh, by the way, down there's my brand new oil pump. Yay, Millens water pump. So there's the timing case and all that. Like I said, go back and view the video in my playlist. I have lots of videos on this 4.6 VIN 8. Here's the intake. See, it's a little bit different. Not a whole lot of gasket material here to worry about, so I just ordered the new head gaskets. Everything here seems to be fairly decent shape, so I'm just going to clean all this up. I really had an issue finding a kit for this online. Entire gasket kit for this VIN 8. There's plenty of W's and 5s and 6s, but VIN 8s are kind of hard to find for some reason. But there's the intake and all that. Now, here's what I used to try to get those bolts out with. I have one of these kits here where you set this on the side of the engine. You bolt it up and you run your bits into here, depending if it's 2-valve, 3-valve, or 4-valve. Paid like, I don't know, $70 for it. That's the whole key of getting this bit centered into this. And I basically just used, you know, some of these guys here. I find these work really well. I don't have a lot of luck with these things. You get them in there a lot of times, they just kind of spin around, but just each their own. But that's how I basically got that out, so I don't want to bore you guys anymore. Here's all the other stud bolts that were in that head. Like I said, if you try to take one off, they'll just snap off like that. Don't know why they didn't use better bolts. There's one that actually did come out, and you can see the bolt. The stud, it's not in there very far. That's probably not even, maybe a ½ inch. That's enough to drive you crazy. And here are the stud bolts on the manifold on the bottom that I got out. And as bad as these look, they came out. I don't know how I got them out, but they come out. So we're going to try to do the other two on this side over here, which are right here and here. I can reach up from the bottom and kind of hopefully bust those loose. And the only other thing I have to do is this dipstick here. I got to somehow wiggle it out. I got to unbolt a little bolt right there, and it should eventually, if I wiggle enough, I'm hoping I can pull it up out of the block, and then this whole head will lift right off the engine, just like my other one did. And nope, you don't have to worry about the cam, guys. All the bolts, you know, you can get to, so that is great. Alright, so as we look at my head here, we'll go ahead and I guess go ahead and start working on this side, get this off, and we'll look at it real quick before we close the video up. But yeah, like I said, by the time I did all the running around and getting bits and buying some slim tools, trying to get in here, it didn't work out. So, but you know, some people have luck, you know, and if you do, hey, hats off to you. But on this one, made me work for it. But taking all this apart was a lot less work, believe it or not, than sitting in here trying to get your hands up around the frame, getting a bit in there, wondering if you're dead center, and causing all the carnage. And I also found out on the starter right there, someone didn't tighten up that bolt. So, and here is the brackets right here, and that bolt, let me just show you that real quick. It's actually in the pan over here. It's August, it's about 100 out here. It's a little cooler today, it's not too bad. And there's the bolt. It kind of goes in here like this. It goes into the block. Then on the outside you got a ground, and you got another secondary nut. And this actually holds that whole bracket on there, just so you know. So if you take this off, this may be froze. You're probably just going to break this little ground wire. Just spin it off, take it off, and you'll be good. Alright, enough talking. Let me go ahead and get this off. And by the way, you do have to take the power steering pump off. It's got 3 bolts in there. One of mine were missing, so and the one that was missing is the hardest one to get to, but there are tricks online on how you get that off. Most of them came off pretty easy, so let's go ahead and see if we can get this head off. Alright everyone, after about 2 hours, you know, taking breaks and coming back, trying to stay cool, we are making progress. The only thing I have to do now is go ahead and take out all these bolts in the head, and they're real easy to do. I did get, believe it or not, those bolts, them studs, the nuts off of that manifold. And here are they are. Not the best things in the world. They're kind of messed up there a little bit, as you can see. And also I used a big socket like this, a swivel Well, the bottom one I was able to get a swivel one, but the top one, well, it was a little more difficult. I actually had to do a couple small things to get this one have access into it, and you can see that one's still in the socket. Basically just took a hammer and just tapped it on there until I made sure it was on there. Let's go underneath real quick. Alright, so as we fish our way underneath, you see that thing right there, that little shiny round circle? Well, that's the old oil dipstick tube housing. I don't care who you are, you're not getting that out from the engine block. And I went to the Ford store and picked up a new one here, just so I'll have it. 26 bucks, that's all they were. And this one here, I gotta be careful with these part numbers. Some of these are C's, some of these are B's, and this is the part number for this because this is a VIN 8 24 valve. And here's what's left. I just usually cut the top of it off because what we're going to do is take the head and slide it up and over right here, what's left of this, with the manifold still on, because it's pointless to take this manifold off now from this head because you can't get into some of the bolts. It's just too much, you know, don't even waste your time. Pull the whole thing off. It's one unit. That's what we're going to do. Now let's go up under here real quick. And now we're on our back, and there is what's left of the dipstick housing. If I shine this light up in there, you can kind of see how it's into the block there. I did all I could, so what I'm going to do, once I pull the head off, I'm going to put a bend in it and slightly twist it and turn it until it eventually comes out of the block. Once that head is off up there, I'll have a little more access to grip that housing. So just so you know, so what I had to do here, I had to take off the drive shaft. I just unbolted it, put it off to the side. Now, it will turn. Get you a pipe wrench and just grab it right about there, and it'll keep it from turning, and you can get these bolts off. And there they are, right about there. And then I took a socket, a regular socket for the oxygen sensor there, a special one that you can get. I'll show you that in a second. And I was able to get that off, believe it or not, with a little pipe and, you know, on the ratchet, got it off. And then I was able to get into that top bolt there. That's the one I had a hard time getting into. And once I pounded the socket on it, it came off. This one over here is not too bad. There seems to be just enough room below the exhaust. So all that's off. But there is the oxygen sensor. Now don't worry, it will twist enough. The wire here, once you get it loose, the wire, I don't know where the plug goes, it's up in there, but I just turned it until it came out, so it does come loose. Let's see if my camera will focus a little bit better for you guys. I think it's as focused as it's going to get. And that's how I got all that out. So you can see the studs up here on the manifold are still connected. They're in good shape. Right there is one of them, right there, and up there is the other one up on the top. I don't know how, but usually I snap them off, but these actually came off, which I was really shocked. And one final comment, you can see right there where the dipstick housing is, that the manifold will slide up over it, and then we can get in there and worry about that a little bit later. So basically, you know, this job's not for everybody, but if you got a lot of tools and you've worked on cars before, you can get this done. So make sure you have plenty of jacks too, and jack stands and all that. So what we're going to do next is go ahead, take a 15 socket and bust all those head bolts loose, pull them out, lift this head up off of here, and then we can start actually drilling these bolts out on this manifold like I really want to do the easy way, and clean up that whole side and put our new gaskets on and our new stud bolts and all that. So let me go ahead and get these bolts off. Alright, don't let this little tool fool you. I had to bust all these with a breaker bar, but this just makes it easier to get the bolts rest the way out faster. See how long these things are. And there it is. Let's get a little pry bar here and see if this will come loose. See if it breaks loose. And there it is. See it? So all we got to do is, well, be that way. Fine with me. All we got to do is lift it up out of there. And boom, just like that, we got it out. It came right out. I was worried about stuff being bolted on the back of the block like that side had been. There was nothing there, and I had to lift it up high enough to slide over this tube. Now I can bend it and twist it and probably pull it the rest of the way out. And here's the gasket, head gasket. We'll look at the head in a minute. And cylinders, walls look okay. Oh Christ, get out. No scratches, no pitting on the top or anything. So we got 2 gaskets coming, like I said earlier. Let's go look at the head, which is in there. I actually had to stand up in here and lift this up because, you know, I didn't have enough strength in my arms, and you don't want to hurt your back. So there it is. It's tore all the way down basically to the block and all that. So got some cleaning up to do, that's for sure. And by the way, here is what I used. Get that oxygen sensor out. So sometimes they come out, sometimes they don't. If you can't get them out, use a pipe wrench on it. Now let's go look at the. Now let's go in there and look at the head. All right, so there it is. Now you see why I took the manifold off with it, because on the other side, yeah, try to get those bolts off with that head on there. So I'm glad I went ahead and did this, and this is a 3-valve head. Everything looks pretty good. I don't see any major problems. Like I said, it ran great. It's just I had this popping noise too. These studs are completely broke off right there. So we'll be drilling those out. Some of these are still in. We'll see how it goes, but it's a lot easier to work on this like this. And the manifold bolts are good. And everything else seems to be okay, so I'll wrap this cam phaser gear up with a cloth and just gently start cleaning it and getting all this apart. So I'll come back here a little bit later, make another video. I'll just make another video once I get everything drilled out. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about this one here yet. This one's a little off center. I'm going to try to get it the rest of the way out and perhaps just maybe start another screw in it. There may be enough threads in there for it to be okay. I'm not sure if I'm going to take it to a machine shop and just have them fix this a little bit there. Because if I take it to a machine shop, they might have it 2 weeks. But I'll make that decision here a little bit later. But other than that, there you go, guys. There's some tips on how I got my heads off on my 4.6 VIN number 8. Hey, let me know where you're watching from right now. And until my next video, I will see you later.